Hello and welcome to the In the Pen podcast, a podcast about relievers, part of the Pitcher List podcast network. My name is Jake Crumpler, and as always, I'm joined by Pitcher List bullpen expert Rick Graham. Rick, we've been off for the past couple of weeks, both of us taking a bit of travel time, and that's why we didn't record last week, but we're back. Happy to see you and be talking baseball. What did you do with your time off? Is there anything notable that needs to be brought up on the podcast before we get into the relief pitchers?
No, not particularly. Just I went up to New Hampshire. My family has like a cottage up there on a lake,
Sounds
so
fancy.
it is. It's nice. It's just nice to get away, and it's very peaceful and very just a nice chill weekend. We definitely needed. So yeah, now back to working and grinding, but at least I don't mind talking baseball. That's the one thing I do not mind talking about. So happy to be back here with you and talking baseball.
Right. Yeah, my week off was definitely a bit more hectic than yours. I went and saw the Savannah Bananas in
Yeah.
Colorado at Coors Field last weekend. Actually, that's 2 weekends ago now. So that was pretty crazy, pretty wild. It's really like TikTok baseball is how I've been describing it. It was like every 5 seconds there's a new song, like you're swiping on TikTok, and like
Yeah.
every new video is a new song because you got the batter walk up. And then right after, as soon as the walk up's done, they're playing another song,
Play
and they're
music
playing
during
another
the
song after
yeah.
that. Yeah, during the whole at bats, it was just insane. Definitely an experience to do at least once. Not something I'm like itching to go do again,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
it was exciting. And then I took a road trip down to SoCal and saw some stuff down there, Newport Beach and Slow and Pismo Beach. So got to see the ocean. That was fun. And then I saw the Giants this past weekend. So my time off was not lacking on the baseball front, but me too. Also excited to talk baseball. I can always do that. So pumped to be back, and we're here to now play catch up after missing the past week with catching up on the news around the baseball world from a relief pitcher standpoint. And also we'll look at our 3 up, 3 down section, which we really haven't had much reason to talk about for a while because of the All-Star break and trade deadline. There was more important things to talk about, a lot of moving pieces, and with the time off and stuff, we've got a lot of movement on Rick's closer rank, so we'll be catching up on that. But let's dive right into the news and notes from around the league, kicking things off with Felix Bautista, who underwent shoulder surgery and is expected to miss at least 12 months. This is a very tough blow to the Orioles of 2026. They really don't have much to play for in 2025, but really sucks for not only the Orioles, but obviously Bautista, who missed all of last season as well, came back, looked strong this year, and now we'll have to go under the knife once again, and we'll miss all of the 2026 campaign.
Yeah. I don't know. It's definitely happened before, but like having that, dealing with Tommy John surgery and then coming back, and then that year when you're coming back, having to go undergo labrum surgery. I mean, that's just definitely used to be a death sentence to pitchers. I feel like there's, now modern, technology and whatnot. We could probably see, we could see Bautista healthy in 2027. I mean, that's great. 27, and I don't know. I think the Orioles need to move on from him as the closer. You can't really count on him anymore, and it's really just tough for him. 2027 is his free agent year. He's going to be a free agent in 2028. So, hopefully he can bounce back in 27. He was he started off slow, but he was looking really good right before he went on the IL. Really tough break for him. This is something. I mean, for the rest of the year, it's a crapshoot between Keegan Aiken, Dietrich Enns, and Yenier Cano and other pieces there. Those guys won't be closing. I'm hoping they won't be the closers in 2026. So, towards the end of the season, we'll start getting into like future closer outlook. But yeah, they're gonna have to rework their bullpen if they're hoping to build back and contend next year, because been a lost year for them in a lot of departments, but this bullpen really took a step back, and it's depleted heading into next year.
Yeah, they're definitely going to need to tap into free agency or the trade market this offseason. I know the Orioles are definitely going to be a team that want to compete next year. So they should be probably tapping into that market to replace
All right.
Bautista because they don't really have the pieces in the bullpen as things stand to, I think, go into next year and feel comfortable about where the bullpen stands.
Yeah,
And it's really
it's
hard to replace somebody that's as good as Bautista. But there will be plenty of options. I wouldn't be surprised if they went and got somebody like Aroldis Chapman, but I think a longer term option would probably
at this
be
point.
better for them. Yeah,
Yeah.
because Bautista's not only going to miss all of next year, but as you mentioned, he only has one more year of control in 2027 before he hits free agency in 2028. So the Orioles may be looking for a longer term option in the offseason. But for now, as you mentioned, Keegan Aiken, Yennier Cano, and Dietrich Enns are the players to target. Next, we'll discuss Tanner Scott, who is expected to be activated from the 15-day IL on Friday. He's missed the past few weeks with elbow inflammation, and not only was he the closer before he landed on the IL, but now he'll come back to a bullpen that continues to thin out, just losing player after player. I'll move this bit of news up, but Brock Stewart was placed on the 15-day IL with shoulder inflammation and received a PRP injection last Friday. And Gardo Henriquez was recalled from the minors in a corresponding move, but the Dodgers just can't seem to keep that bullpen healthy. Even guys that they're acquiring from outside the organization are coming in and having their arms fall off. And they did send out Alexis Diaz to the minors as well. So he will have a little bit competition, Tanner Scott and Alex Vesia and Blake Trinan, but with the contract that he's under and the role that he played prior to his injury, I expect him to probably be thrust right back into the late stage of ball games.
Yeah, I mean, it's like Brock Stewart going on the IL, but like what do you really expect? Because Brock Stewart's been on the
That's like
IL
his
for
thing.
like a lot of his
Yeah. career.
Yeah. I mean, I love the move. But like that, they felt like the Dodgers probably needed one more bullpen piece. I mean, their IL bullpen right now is like an all-star level
Right.
like bullpen. So yeah, but it does sound like things are starting to trend the right direction for Scott, Yates, and Kopech's starting a rehab assignment as well. So getting some pieces back. And yeah, Vesia has been very shaky lately. I think
Mm-hmm.
he probably is the next guy who deserves a break or needs a break, or
Yeah.
at least to get him out of the high leverage spot for a little bit. So yeah, Scott being back tomorrow is a huge boost for them, and he'll go right back into the closer role, I think, and then instantly. I don't think there's any concern there. But yeah, like between Trinan not being quite his dominant self and Vesia struggling lately, yeah, they're limping into September, which is never a good sign. But yeah, they're still hoping that the plan is just to be healthy for October, right? With LA, so there's still time for that to happen. But yeah, Scott returning definitely right back into being a top 10 or 12 closer for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, pick him up if he
Yeah.
is available in your league. I know he was dropped in our home league, and I picked him up right away. Been stashing him since then, so excited to see him come back this weekend. Though always tough for me to roster Dodgers on my fantasy team. I get so conflicted. I'm like, I want you to do well, but not too well. Not too well. I want the team to do poorly, but you can do well, Tanner Scott. But yeah, back to being the closer in LA and staying in LA. Kenley Jansen dealt with rib pain a couple days ago as he tweaked his side during the workout. He's likely expected to avoid an IL stint for the Angels, but we did see Luis Garcia record a save on Wednesday. And if this injury persists for Kenley Jansen throughout the weekend, I'd expect Reed Detmers to be the top option out of the bullpen for the Angels.
Yeah, I think ultimately, if there was a long-term injury here with Jansen, or if he gets shut down at some point, Detmers would be the one guy I would want to roster.
Mm-hmm.
I know Garcia got the save, but I'm not really interested in chasing that. Detmers deserves a chance after how well he's been pitching the past 4 months at this point. But yeah, sounds like Jansen will be fine. He's still pushing for the saves total. So unless, I mean, if you have like just an empty spot that you can add Detmers just to see how the weekend plays out for Jansen, might be worth it, but I wouldn't necessarily make a move for Detmers without Jansen going on the IL.
Definitely. Totally agree. Though I do wish I do hope that we see Reed Detmers get a shot at some point to be
Yeah.
like a high end closer, or at least somebody with a more significant bullpen role, because he's looked so good this year pitching out of the bullpen for the Angels, as somebody that sort of failed as a starter for years. And maybe if he went to another ball club, I'd like to see him get another shot in the rotation. But as things stand, I would love to see Detmers be the Angels closer next year. And I mean, imagine if that bullpen was full strength and the Angels were
Well,
actually competitive, because guys like Robert Stevenson and Ben Joyce have
Stevenson's
missed the whole year.
Stevenson's on his way back, possibly. Yeah, he's supposed to make one more rehab assignment, one more rehab appearance. So then maybe we get to see the second inning of Robert Stevenson this year,
All right.
and hopefully the third and fourth after that. Hopefully he can finish the year. I mean, I know he went right back on the IL, but he looked really good in his rehab and his one outing. So yeah, hopefully it's been tough with Stevenson, but if he's healthy for the last, month of the year, at least that gives us something to look forward to next year for that bullpen.
Yeah.
Because yeah, I mean, what do they do? That's another. Again, we're going to talk about closers for 2026 at some point, but yeah, this is another spot where things are wide open for next year.
Yeah, super interesting there, and they have some enticing arms, especially if Ben Joyce is able to make it back at some point,
Yeah.
and Ryan Zephyr-John can sort of sort things out there, and even somebody like Jose Fermin, who's sort of under the
Mhm.
radar, but has looked really good in the minors this year and been decent in the major. So the Angels, who are always struggling for pitching, are somehow finding their way into producing some pretty decent relief pitchers. All right, now we can look at our injuries from the past couple of weeks, starting with Hunter Harvey, who was placed on the 15-day IL with a grade 2 adductor strain. It is a significant strain, and Harvey is expected to miss a significant amount of time, which likely means the rest of the season, especially considering the Royals are, it's not really in contention. They're 66 and 62, so there's still
They're
a
making a
shot for them. They're
yeah, they're
making a
making a little
push.
run. Yeah.
Yeah. But this blow to the bullpen probably won't be the thing that ends their push, but
No.
is definitely going to make it more difficult, because this is a bullpen that I think has overperformed all year. And Harvey was going to be somebody that came back to really support that and or the final innings of that bullpen. But now he's expected to probably miss the rest of the season. Luinder Avila was recalled from the minors in a corresponding move and subsequently optioned to the minors. He's a 23-year-old relief pitcher, so maybe we'll see more of him next year. But with Hunter Harvey out, that means we've got guys like John Schreiber and Angel Serpa who are going to be forced to step up and support Carlos Estevez and Lucas Erceg.
Yeah. Zerp has been pitching really well. Ersig's been okay. It's not hasn't been the best year for Lucas Erceg. And Schreiber's middling at best, I guess. So I'm not holds leagues. I'm not too excited about anyone here. And even saves leagues with Carlos Estevez. I know he's got 33 saves now, but yeah, the Royals. It's the Royals pitching there. It definitely makes things easier, and pitching in that division.
Yeah.
So, there's a chance to get some holds or saves here from these guys, but yeah, no strikeout upside. Then Harvey was like the one guy who
Right.
kind of brought that, and now he's gone. But yeah,
Mm-hmm.
he's only thrown 10 innings this year. He'll be a free agent next year. Interesting. I can't wait to see what team gives him takes a chance on him, just to see if he can stay healthy finally for 60, or at least give me 50 innings somewhere. Be fun to watch him. So, but yeah, just he's another one of these guys like Brock Stewart. It's like you're never gonna get a full season from him.
Unfortunately, yeah, always had a lot of upside there, and he will probably end his season with a perfect ERA across 10 and 2/3 innings. So nothing to complain about there if you did have him on your fantasy team at the times when he was pitching. All right, next we'll talk about probably the most significant transaction or injury here, as Josh Hader was placed on the 15-day IL with a shoulder strain, and Hader is not expected to pitch again in the regular season, as he'll require a 3-week ramp-up period once he's cleared to pitch again. So that means he's expected to pitch in the postseason. I seems very likely that in the next couple of weeks he starts ramping up again, and then we'll see him at some point in September. And I mean, based on the comments we're seeing on our live stream, definitely tune in live on YouTube to catch the podcast right when it, or as it's coming out. You can never really trust the Astros with this kind of stuff. So maybe Hader can come back sooner than that. I feel like if the Astros are pushed in the race for the AL West title, or for maybe even a wild card spot, then they bring back Josh Hader. But I feel like they've got that division pretty much locked up. I wouldn't see why they would risk that at this point. And I say that, and now I look at the standings and I'm eating my words immediately. They got a 1.5 game lead over the Mariners. So maybe they will be forced to bring Josh Hader up. But they did their best to counteract the Hader injury, not only activating Sean Dubin from the 15-day IL, but also signing Craig Kimbrell to a major league contract. Bit risky there, but let's start with the Josh Hader news. How are you feeling about whether or not he's done for the season, and are you dropping him in fantasy?
Yeah, I think at this one, and I mean, yeah, even if you're in leagues that go till the final week of the year, I think just given the prognosis and the fact that they've said that he's going to, probably the tea leaves are reading that he's going to be out until the postseason at the earliest. And it's the Astros. I mean, but what's happened with Kyle Tucker last year and Yordan Alvarez this year? I mean, it's like, how can we believe any sort of medical news?
Right.
I mean, Yordan Alvarez has been just sitting on my bench.
MIA.
It's like, so. Yeah, Astros medical team, definitely not the best out there as far as, determining time to play again. But I think you can drop Hader at this point. Unless if you have the IL spot opened, might as well stash him. But it's not, if you have no IL spots, I wouldn't hold on. And their bullpen will probably be fine without him. I mean, between Abreu and the other 3 lefties they have there, those guys will be fine. It's like finding, that's why they're trying Craig Kimbrell after Hector Neris failed. Now we're going to go to Kimbrell as the next year righty. I mean, they just really need a right-handed option in that bullpen, because Caleb Ort's not it. He's struggled this year. I know he was pretty good for them last year, but this year it's been an issue. But I mean, I'm still confident between Abreu, Souza, and Okert. Those 3 are really good at the back end. So the Astros, the Mariners are right behind them, but I don't think the bullpen is going to be the issue. I don't think that's going to be what dooms or sinks the Astros if the Mariners catch them. They got other issues. So Kimbrell's a shot in the dark. I wouldn't expect it to work out, but we'll see. Crazier things have happened. So.
Right.
Who knows?
Yeah. So I guess if you have multiple IL spots and you've got the ability to stash Hader, it's definitely worth it, because I wouldn't count out the possibility he's out this year. But like you said, the tea leaves are pointing to Hader being out the rest of the year.
If you have the IL spot, it's definitely worth stashing someone of his caliber. But if you don't, like if you're in an NFBC with no IL spot, I think you're probably going to have to use that on someone else at this point, because maybe we get 2 weeks out of Hader at best. Who knows at this, like you said, 3-week ramp up period, and we're at August 21st. Time is just running out.
Definitely. All right, next and lastly, amongst our injuries, Anthony Bender was placed on the 15-day IL with a tibial stress reaction in his lower leg and will miss the rest of the season. Cade Gibson was recalled from the minors in a corresponding move, but tough blow to the Marlins bullpen, as Bender has been one of the most reliable pitchers on the entire roster, pitching to a 2.16 ERA with 19 holds and 4 saves, and he actually got the Marlins' most recent save as well, so he was even trending up a little bit. So big blow to the bullpen. I think Bender can probably be a little bit, I don't want to say happy about the injury, but I would say that, like, with regression, his ERA was due for some inflation. So ending the year with the 2.16 ERA is going to look pretty dope. Like, I don't know. There's a silver lining there for him if he's looking at his Fangraphs page and he's like, oh man, 2025, I was pretty dope. But yeah, that sucks for Anthony
Yeah.
Bender. I hope he recovers quickly. But with him out of the picture in Miami, that means Calvin Fauché and Ronnie Henriquez are going to be the probably co-closers. What do you think? What do you think the ninth inning is looking like in Miami?
It's still going to be anyone's guess between those two, and I'm sure Lake Bakar. But yeah, they haven't wanted to commit to anyone as a closer this year. They're not going to want to commit to anyone anytime soon. Yeah, Bender was having a nice year, not striking out anyone really, but
No.
the stuff looked good. I mean, I think there was more in the tank as far as strikeouts can go, but he was, still great for ratios. I wonder. And he's the one guy I thought they might move at the deadline because I think he's only got like 2 or 3 years left on his deal on as far as team control. But yeah, I feel like another team could maybe get a little bit more out of Bender. Just interesting to see where his career goes at this point because the velo came back this year. The slider was still really good. So yeah, again, this team, are they going to have a closer at any time this year? Probably not. Are they going to have one next year? Is this like their approach that Clayton McCullough wants to use going forward? Another team where 2026 is probably going to be just throwing darts at like Ronnie Henriquez at the end of the draft and hoping he finally takes over that role.
Right, and Jesus Tinoco is going to be back next year, so
yeah, sure, yeah.
That was my guy in the offseason.
That was
That did
we
not
both
work
were.
out.
We both predicted Tinoco being but that was
Yeah.
between Tinoco and Fauché, and then it turned into Fauché, Henriquez, Bakar, Bender coming back strong. So yeah, just a lot of moving parts here.
Yeah.
A lot of. I mean, Henriquez has the best upside here by far, but the rest of them, it's very,
Mhm.
nothing to get too excited about.
Yeah, remember when Fauché was like top of the Stuff Plus leaderboard and everybody was
Yeah.
so confused. I'm glad they fixed that because I just felt so stupid being like he's not that dominant and everybody's like, "What, do you not like numbers? I thought you were a numbers guy." And I was like, "I am." But
yeah, that was a glitch
I
in
talked
the
to Eno.
Matrix.
I talked to Eno in
Yeah,
the offseason.
I know. Thank you, Eno, for fixing that.
Right, right. All right. Next, we'll move on into our transactions. But first, we're going to take a quick break here on In the Pen. And we're back. Jake Crumpler here with Rick Graham on In the Pen discussing relievers. We are heading into our transactions section, discussing the transactions from the past couple of weeks. We'll start with Shelby Miller, who was activated from the 15-day IL after missing a few weeks, probably more than a few weeks, almost 2 months with a forearm strain. During the time that he was recovering from that forearm strain, he was traded by the Diamondbacks to the Brewers. So he'll join a very deep Brewers bullpen, which means he likely will have to battle with a bunch of other guys to be relevant in save plus holds leagues. But prior to the injury, he looked really good with a sub-3 ERA, a strikeout rate nearing 30%, and was the closer for the Diamondbacks. So having a pretty good resurgent season, a pretty decent mid-30s part of his career after sort of fading off the map after looking really interesting early in his career. But nonetheless, he'll join the Brewers bullpen. Where do you see him stacking up amongst the relievers in that bullpen? Because obviously Trevor McGill and Abner Uribe are the top two there, but from there it's really anybody's game.
Yeah, it's McGill and Uribe, and then I think Koenig's pretty safe as like the 7th, 6th inning top lefty, I guess. And then then it's wide open. I mean, Aaron Ashby was he has 2 holds, 2 saves. But he threw 50 pitches his last time out. I don't know if he's getting ramped up or what the deal is there, but I think Ashby's gonna pitch in big spots. Just he's obviously got an ability to pitch more innings. And then after that it's been I don't know. It's been Grant Anderson's had some moments, Nick Mears has had some moments, but they both struggled recently. And Miller hasn't been great since he came off the IL for the Brewers either. So I think one of those guys probably emerges, probably one of the Mears or Shelby Miller. One of those 2 guys emerges as kind of that secondary 6th, 7th inning guy. But I don't know. I mean, Miller was great in Arizona, but coming off that, coming off of that injury, felt a little potentially rushed, especially someone at his age with his history, injury history. So, yeah, I'd stick to McGill and Uribe, and everything else is probably best left for the wire in holds leagues.
Right. But they are the best team in baseball, so plenty of holds to go around
That
in
top
Milwaukee.
two, I mean, that top two has always had interesting like talent and upside, but I don't. This is like the best case with McGill and Uribe. That's probably, as far as just the top two ninth, eighth inning situations in baseball, that right now might be the top one.
Right. They've
especially
been
with Hader and
dominant.
Abreu, or with Hader out, and yeah, so yeah.
Will be interesting to watch that in the playoffs. I know the Brewers always seem to struggle once they get under the bright lights. It's like something about like not having all the big names where you get there, especially if you're not super reliant on homers. You're more reliant on relief pitchers. It's like you got to get a lead if you want those relief pitchers to come in and shut down a game. But be interesting to see how much of an impact McGill and Uribe can have in October. Next, we'll discuss Luke Jackson, who went from the Rangers to the Tigers, but now the Tigers have DFA'd him, so he is a free agent. And then we have a bunch of corresponding moves that ultimately resulted in one that's a little bit interesting to talk about. Cody Hoyer was recalled from the minors. He was somebody who a while ago was pretty interesting for the White Sox. He was traded to the Cubs. I can't remember which deal that was, but he was pretty notable.
Kimbrel?
But I don't know.
It was a big deal, and then he's been all over the place this year now.
Yeah, all the injuries have sort of ruined his career. So hopefully he gets a shot later this year, because he was subsequently optioned to the minors. So not pitching for the Tigers at the moment. And Hoyer was optioned in favor of Bailey Horn, who was then subsequently optioned to the minors in favor of Alex Lang, who was activated from the 60-day IL after missing the entire season with a lat strain. Lang is somebody who has always struggled with his control, but if you remember a couple of years ago, he was the Tigers closer and was somebody that was pretty notable in fantasy. I mean, we sort of talked him up quite a bit when he was doing well, because I felt like he was underrated when he was pitching. When he was pitching well, at least last year, he was not great. But he is back in that Tigers bullpen, and I don't think he's going to be factoring into the late innings there, but it is interesting to see him back nonetheless.
Yeah, I mean, because we always hyped him up because he has huge whiff numbers. He's, 3 really good pitches between his changeup curve and his fastball can get up into the 96, 97, 98 range. So I kind of forgot about him this year, and there was some, especially when we did, like, I think around May, when it was like Will Vest and Tommy Kenley. It's like, okay, Vest is pretty good, but they still like Kenley. Like, is there a chance Lang can come back here and get a chance to close out games? But I don't think he's going to get that chance now with Finnegan pitching well there, and Vest still pitching well. I think that committee's pretty straightforward. I think that's set up for the rest of the season. But yeah, I mean, I guess like looking forward to next year, if Lang, and especially in the postseason, if Lang can pitch well over the next month and solidify a spot in the postseason roster, I wouldn't necessarily rule out him getting a chance to close out, or maybe he and Vest end up closing out games together next year. Maybe that's their duo. So as far as swing and miss stuff goes, I mean, Lang is at the top of the list for this bullpen. And he's only been 1 outing so far, but the stuff matches up with what we've seen from him in the past. So, there's no loss in velo. It looks like the, knuckle curve still getting a ton of whiffs. So yeah, it's kind of exciting to see him just back on the MLB roster again. Mm-hmm. I know he's had issues with walks and just, he's had some bad BABIP luck as well, but definitely a super talented reliever there.
Yeah, that's really the biggest thing for him is the control, because last year that's really what ruined his season, was just being unable to find the zone. He spent most of the year in the minors because of it, but he looked a lot better in the minors this year, and all the whiffs are still there. So
Yeah.
I too am a bit excited, though I'm not going to get my hopes up until we start seeing some news or something happen next year. I mean, I'm not going to be surprised when I see like Jeff Zimmerman writing about him on Mining the News that like, oh, they're considering him in the closer role
Yeah.
the next spring, and then we start getting hyped about it, and then we go, oh, okay, Alex Lang dark horse, and then he just like absolutely sucks. Usually is
Jason
what
Foley
happens.
and Bill Brisky are splitting saves by Mang.
Right. Right. It always seems like that happens. Like the guys
Yeah.
that are so obviously not going to be a part of it, they end
Yeah.
up being the main guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, Detroit's starting to become really frustrating when it comes to trying to predict what they're going to do with their bullpen.
Mhm.
All right, next we'll discuss the Phillies bullpen. We'll start with David Robertson, who they signed to a free agent deal a few weeks ago, and they finally recalled him from the minors. He's ready to pitch in the majors. Alan Rangel was optioned to the minors in a corresponding move, and then they also reinstated Jose Alvarado from the restricted list after he missed 60 games following his suspension for performance-enhancing drug use. Nolan Hoffman was optioned to the minors in a corresponding move, but that Phillies bullpen is now at full strength, and it looks pretty good, to be honest, with with Orion Kerkering being your number 5 guy, or even David Robertson being your number 5 guy. It's a pretty dope bullpen. Yohan Duran, Alvarado, David Robertson, Matt Strahm, Kerkering, and even Tanner Banks and Jordan Romano there. I know Romano struggled, but that's a pretty deep bullpen. I know they won't have Alvarado in the postseason, but at full strength now. What do you think the sort of order is for holds? Because obviously Yohan Duran is the closer.
Yeah, I know. Trying to, I think Matt Strom's pitched, well enough over the past 2 months to stay in one of the setup spots, setup roles for them. I think he should still be getting a ton of holds. After Strom and Duran, it's between Kerkering and Robertson. And Kerkering hasn't been consistent enough, and there's definitely been walk issues with him. Robertson's been fine so far. His velo's down 2 miles per hour from last year. I don't know if it matters. It probably doesn't. He doesn't throw hard anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And he's throwing his curveball and even his slider a little bit more than he did last year to kind of counteract the loss in velo. So he's been fine. And it's only 4.2 innings, but he's got a 35% K rate, so it's working. And they definitely trust Robertson, so I think he might be the third guy there, and then probably Kerkering. I mean, I don't. What do you do? It's tough with Alvarado because
Right.
he's, you do want him. You want to use him because you use him now. He's not. You can't use him in October anyway, so might as well use him up. Use up all the rest of his innings now.
Mm-hmm.
But you also kind of want to build your bullpen hierarchy and get like some sort of feel for how it's going to be in October. I would imagine that's what you want to do in September. This is how we're going to do things in October, like kind of get into a feel for that. So yeah, it's tough to tell if they're going to just, is Alvarado going to just be their 8th inning guy until October and then they'll figure it out in there? Or is he just going to kind of be like on like the B squad where like when those guys need a break, he just kind of fills in? Again, yeah, tough to tell. And I think he'll be fine. His velo has been down to a little bit, but again, it's early coming back from a pretty long layoff, so I think he'll get ramped up and hopefully have a good September. I just don't know what the hold number will be, like how many holds are going to be in there. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, like you said, Tanner Banks gets slept on in this bullpen too. He's really good. I mean, Romano's been terrible. He's probably very close to being DFA'd. If they had one more bullpen arm, he wouldn't be there anymore. But I mean, Banks is really good. So yeah, Alvarado's a big loss in October, but having Strom and Banks there as those two lefties will still be pretty solid for them.
All right. Next, we'll discuss the Diamondbacks bullpen, as they have once again gotten rid of one of their pitchers that appeared to be the closer. We talked a lot about Justin Martinez, AJ Puck, and then Shelby Miller, and then Kevin Ginkel. Now Kendall Graveman, this time, luckily, it's not an injury, but Kendall Graveman was designated for assignment, so he was removed from the roster. Really struggled this year after being acquired from the Astros in the offseason. Juan Murillo was recalled from the minors in a corresponding move, and he's one of their young flamethrowers and could factor into the 9th inning. However, it looks like Southpaw Andrew Salfrank, who was suspended for, I think so. I don't want to say that because I'm not sure if it was him or Kyle Nelson.
It was Salfrank.
Okay, good. Sorry, Kyle. Andrew Salfrank was suspended for.
Yes,
yeah, right?
No, it was.
Okay,
yeah. This is too many Kyle lefties in that bullpen.
Yes. Nonetheless, Salfrank is back this year, and what I was gonna say is he's getting save opportunities for the Diamondbacks. It seems like he's gotten the last few of them. He got a couple saves, didn't look great in a couple of them. He has been pitching really well this year, 1.65 ERA in 16 innings. However, he's not striking out anybody, so I'm not sure why the Diamondbacks are turning to him over some of the alternatives.
Yeah, because what are the alternatives? I mean, it's so no one in this bullpen is worthy of closing.
Well, Murillo's cool, but he's so young. I don't know why they would do that.
There's upside there, and same with who do they just send down? Andrew Hoffman has.
I don't know why they did that either.
I know, but Sal Frank's a lefty who throws tops out at like 89 and has a 17% strikeout rate. So it's like, not someone to get excited about. That ERA over time will certainly regress toward in the negative way.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Backus I like a little bit better from the left side, but not as a closer, not even close. Murillo throws hard, and he's had stretches this year where he's like been like a high leverage, like showing some high leverage upside, but the consistency hasn't been there. And he's still young. I don't know. Yeah, we talked about Ryan Thompson the last time. It's like whenever he comes back, he's probably just going to close games, and that's that. So I probably wouldn't even be interested in anyone here until. Has there been any updates on Ryan Thompson? Or they could just shut him down at this point? I mean, looks like he's throwing to live hitters this week. Okay, so that's something. It's still, even Ryan Thompson's not a guy I'm excited to chase, but at least I feel some confidence that I know Torey Lovullo loves him and will roll him out there in the 9th inning and not think twice.
Right. Well, I think I'm on the same boat as you. Salfrank is not somebody that I'm targeting in fantasy, maybe in deep leagues where I'm desperate for saves, but I know the ERA is really good, but I feel like I'd have him on some like similar level to whatever's going on in Colorado, where, you don't really want it, but save is a save.
Yeah, I think Vodnik's a guy who at least has some sort of, like, we've seen him have some success before. There's some upside there. He misses bats, throws hard. It's a little bit more exciting, even though it's, Colorado and Coors he has to deal with. But just a soft tossing lefty with no strikeout rate. It's like basically saying Tim Hill's going to be a closer, so like somewhere.
Right.
It's like that doesn't, like, I guess, I don't know. If you're desperate for saves and that's it, and it's like an NL only, sure.
Exactly.
Take a chance. Yeah.
Totally. All right. Next, we'll discuss Dory Moretta, who we talked about on the last podcast as somebody who could possibly factor into the hold situation in Pittsburgh. However, he was optioned to the minors last week. And also the Pirates designated for assignment Ryan Borucki, which is a bit surprising considering I feel like he still had some upside. Maybe I'm sort of holding on to some image of him from a couple of years ago, but he's dealt with a lot of injuries over the past couple of years. And I think more notably, Colin Holderman was recalled from the minors. He struggled this year in the majors and hasn't been too great in the minors, but the strikeouts have been there for him. He had a 29% strikeout rate in the minors so far this year. Somewhat interesting, especially as a guy who in the past was getting a lot of holds for the Pirates. Like he was their top option a couple of years ago. I don't know if he's going to factor in now, but this bullpen is still super thin. So it's possible Holderman rises up really quickly if he can establish himself in the majors.
I don't understand why Dory Moretta was sent down. I mean, compared to like what's in this bullpen right now, and I know, he's got options, but so doesn't everyone in this bullpen outside of Yohan Ramirez. And I guess technically Andrew Heaney, if you want to consider that, can consider him. But if
Sure.
Andrew Heaney's pitching out of your bullpen, why is he just DFA him? Just move on. And even like Johan Ramirez, does he need to be there? So yeah, I don't know. Dory Moretta just coming back. He looked good in his, with 6 outings he had or whatever. He's been a really good reliever, prior to his Tommy John surgery, and he looked pretty much like the same guy he was prior to that. So I don't know why they're just keeping him in AAA, especially when you have Chase Sugart and Carmen Mlodzinski as your setup guys now. So just weird Pirate stuff, I guess. But yeah, I like Moretta. I mean, Holderman, hopefully we can see him finish the year on a strong note, because yeah, he was terrible at the beginning of the season, but he's been, he was one of the more consistent relievers last year. He's shown that he can handle that setup role when he's going right. So yeah, and this is another bullpen where it's like, I think even with Santana, I still think things can be kind of wide open going into next season, as far as who's closing out games and how their hierarchy is at the back end here.
So as a bullpen podcast, are we allowed to talk about Bubba Chandler? Because he is expected to be promoted from the minors on Friday, and technically he'll be a relief pitcher, as he's expected to pitch in bulk relief of Braxton Ashcraft on Friday. So I feel like we should be allowed to talk about him. I don't think there's much to say from a holds or save standpoint, but he is the number 2 Pirates prospect according to MLB Pipeline, and even more notable, the number 7 prospect in baseball, one of the top pitching prospects out there, if not the top pitching prospect. But like I said, he's pitching out of the bullpen, so I guess we get to at least mention him, right?
Yeah, they're saying he's going to pitch bulk innings right out of the bullpen. It's not going to be just, so it's fun for, like, if you're in a wins league that like has starting, if you have like a starting pitcher, if like a starting cap, game started cap,
right?
I mean, he can possibly help you there.
Mm-hmm.
Also, if you're in leagues that like those SPRP spots are important, he might get you RP eligibility for next season, so he gets a little versatility there. But yeah, I'm just excited to finally see him pitch, because he's been hyped up for a long time now. I've just been waiting to see him, and I know he got off to a really hot start, then really struggled middle of the season. Right. He's been pitching better lately, so yeah, hopefully they haven't ruined him yet, and you can just looking forward to that when we eventually have that 3-headed monster of Skeens, Jared Jones, and Bubba Chandler there.
And don't they have like even another pitching prospect that I can't remember right now? I know they got Seth Hernandez in the draft, who's probably a few years away. But man, the Pirates are really
Thomas Harrington's pretty interesting. And Hunter Barco's been pitching well. So,
and I mean, even Ashcraft, if you want to consider
Ashcraft and Burrows are kind of they were top 10 prospects in that organization too. Right. So I don't know what their role. They're probably more geared towards being relievers, although Burrows has pitched for well, and so has an Ashcraft for the most part. So yeah, there's a lot of good pitching upside and talent there for them to work with. Hopefully,
for them to trade away to the Rays.
Trade away for some middling bats that
right. They've done that so often. I mean, I know it's like a meme at this point, and honestly like an overplayed meme, but man, the Pirates have had so much pitching talent and have really not had success since back when Andrew McCutchen was like an MVP candidate. So hopefully this new wave of Pirates pitching can finally make them relevant in the postseason again. I'm excited as well to see that rotation at full strength.
They have the top prospect in baseball too. So
right. Connor Griffin, which he sort of came out of nowhere. I know he was a first round pick, but wasn't somebody that was like in conversation, and he just flew up the
he was like a guy. I think he struggled a little bit his last year in high school, but he was like always kind of in. But before that, he was kind of in consideration for a top 3 pick. So he fell to the Pirates, and yeah, he's been awesome. He's a fun. I mean, that's like a McCutchen, 2.0. If he moves to center field, where he'd be an elite center fielder with speed, like Bobby Witt's type, skills. So. Yeah, that's at least a fun bat for them to dream on, but other than that, it's a little bit bleak as far as where that offense is going.
Right, and where the bullpen's going, because they're going to be relying on Daniel Santana next year, but with all the starting pitching talent, you have to imagine that one of those guys becomes a closer.
Exactly. Like there's so many good starting pitching. There's a lot of good starting pitching depth that hopefully one or two of those guys can transition well into a bullpen role.
Mhm.
Um, I still think Ashcraft makes the most sense, but we'll see. Because like Harrington's the guy who's got like a pretty deep mix and can just be an innings eater. But Ashcraft has like 2 or 3 like plus
Probably
pitch. I
Jerry
don't know.
Jones.
Yeah, I mean Jared Jones potentially. Yeah, like maybe Bubba Chandler. Maybe that's I don't know. We'll see. But
We
it's not
will.
going to be Paul Skeens, and it's not going to be. That's pretty much the only. I mean, Mitch Keller, if he's still there, he's not going to transition to
Mitch
the
Keller.
bullpen. But yeah, we'll
Right.
see.
Okay, we just have a couple more transactions before we get into our final section. We'll start with Braden Fisher, who we talked about a lot this year. He's had a great season pitching for the Blue Jays, and he was
Yeah.
optioned to the minors. Though I still see him on the roster resource closer
What
depth chart, which I'm confused by.
what
Nonetheless, that happened
happened there?
today. I
Yeah.
don't
What?
know. I know that he started off really hot, and he hasn't been as great recently. Like since the All-Star
Yeah.
break, his ERA, and I'm talking slowly because I'm doing the math, 5.23 in 10 and a third innings for Braden Fisher, but the strikeouts are all still there. Like he's still striking out 30% of the batters he's faced. He's only walked 11%, so it's not like an obscene amount of walks. The
Yeah.
BABIP is only at 280, so I don't know. I think the home runs have increased probably, and that was actually something we had hinted at when he was having a lot of success. I remember you asking me very clearly. You were like, "Hey, how many home runs does Braden Fisher have this year?" And I was like,
Mm.
0. So those are starting to tick up. I think that makes
He's only
sense.
allowed one, I think. But yeah, but it's still there.
He's
He's
at
a bit of
3
a.
now.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I think he was at 0 for the first like 2 months of his career. And then, I mean, 3 is still not a lot, but I think it explains why somebody who still has good strikeout and walk numbers has seen his ERA inflate so much. But yeah, still surprising to see him go to the minors. I know that Blue Jays bullpen is super deep, but Fisher had been so good and reliable for them this
Yeah.
year.
He's he's like a trick artist though. He's not, there's no fastball there. He's just 2 breaking balls. So eventually it was probably bound to things were bound to regress towards, being average. And yeah, it looks like
Mhm.
July and August have been very mediocre for him. Um Strikeouts, they're still there though. I mean, 18 strikeouts over 17 and a third. It's solid, I guess. Or 15 and a third. I can't do math. Um, but yeah, it's still weird. I thought like he would at least be there until like Yimi Garcia came back or
Mhm.
whatnot. But yeah, I mean,
Maybe
you
it's just
just
preemptive. We haven't
yeah,
seen a corresponding move either.
and I'm sure they want Fluharty in there since there's their second lefty.
Right.
Tommy Nance too is just like Tommy Nance is another guy who's just been quietly
What
dominant
is
in their
in the
bullpen.
bullpen water fountain?
I know. Um, so yeah, there's good options there. I mean, I will say Sir Anthony Dominguez and Louis Varland have not been great since they came over at the deadline. And Yariel Rodriguez has been like terrible for the last 2 months. But at least with Dominguez and Varland, I feel like I know a lot of those guys coming. I talked about it with like Ryan Helsley too, his struggles in New York. It's definitely takes it some time when you go to a new team and you got a new, you're working with a new catcher, new organization, new city, just all sorts of, learning curves, I suppose. So I think Dominguez and Varland should be fine moving forward, but yeah, they still could use Garcia back. I know that they're pretty deep here, but healthy Garcia definitely puts them over the edge for me.
Right. Okay. Lastly, we've got Jacob Webb, who was activated from the 15-day IL. Hard throwing Jacob Webb. He is back in the Rangers bullpen after missing some time with back spasms. Caleb Bushley was optioned to the minors in a corresponding move. We'll have some more time in our next section to discuss the closing situation in Texas, but I think Webb is somebody that could be getting some holds, especially as one of the top right-handed options, probably the number 3 right-handed option. But he was relied upon in high leverage situations or earlier in the season. So I wouldn't be surprised if they continue to do so for the
Yeah.
rest of the season.
Yeah, is Josh Spores ever going to come back? Is that just not happening?
I don't know.
I guess at this point, like the Rangers have
He
really
threw a
fallen.
bullpen session
Yeah,
a couple weeks ago.
I feel like that's been the update like once a month. It's like he threw a bullpen, and then it's
He's actually I've never seen this. He made a string of appearances on a rehab assignment before a brief deloading program, which is a planned period of reduced training. Why would he do that? I don't know.
So he's not pitching this year.
It doesn't sound like it.
So yeah, I mean, the Rangers don't have much to play for anymore. They've fallen out of things, but yeah, the closing situation's still very interesting. And as much as they're not going to make the playoffs this year, but they're still a team that can win a couple games a week. So the closing situation could be important. But Jacob Webb shouldn't be a part of that mix, I would imagine.
No. All right. Well, that will wrap up our news and transactions. We were, a little bit worried we may not have enough to talk about this week. And look at us go 50 minutes just talking about news and transactions. We're sort of the goats when it comes to that. But next, we'll discuss, we'll head into our 3 up, 3 down section. But first, we'll take another break here on In the Pen. And we're back. Jake Crumpler here with Rick Graham on In the Pen discussing relief pitchers. We're heading into our 3 up, 3 down section as we discuss the closers rising and falling on Rick's closer ranks. We'll start with our risers, beginning with Jose Ferrer, who has claimed pretty much without a doubt the closer role in Washington. I've been holding him in our home league for the past couple of weeks, and I've been liking what I've seen. Not a lot of save opportunities for him. He's only up to 3 on the season, but he continues to dominate. And this was a guy that we talked about sort of midway through the season as somebody who was improving a lot after a slow start to the season. So it's been nice to see him just transition cleanly into that closer role and continue to find success there.
Yeah, April was a struggle for him, to say the least. And even going into May, I mean, he had a big, 5 earned run outing in early May. And, basically since then, he's, at that point, he had an ERA at 8.05 and a whip at 1.79. And he's brought it down. I mean, he's a guy who doesn't strike out a lot of people. So the whip's always going to be solid from him. But yeah, I mean, even with the lack of walks leads to not the biggest strikeout upside, but he's just very solid. And I really do have a sense that he has a really good chance to be the closer for them next year as well. I think he's one guy who, he's left-handed, so that might, be a bit of a negative. But in today's game, like we saw him pitch the 8th inning, was it last week? And Cole Henry came in at the 9th, but they use Ferrer in the high leverage spots against the lefties at the top of the order in the 8th inning. So that's going to happen from time to time. But I think 70% of the saves are going to go to Ferrer, and there's not a lot of competition there. And yeah, like I think even when we look back at the ERA for Ferrer on the year, it's going to be, this dude underperformed. Like this was an underperformance because there's a lot more in the tank here. There's a really good reliever there. So, yeah, hopefully he's been better since he's kind of been named the closer, taken over the closer role. So I think, that sometimes can, boost his confidence, maybe that he's been trusted into this closer role. Mm-hmm. And he's looked really good since the All-Star break. So yeah, looking forward to, I just think as far as all the changes that happen at the deadline, I feel like there's some safety here, and you're not going to get, like it's the Nationals, you're probably not going to get 8 more saves from him, but there's probably 5 or 6 more saves in the tank, give or take. And I don't think he's going to wreck your ratios, or anything. So I think, there's some safety here with Jose Ferrer.
Right. And since May 6th, when he surrendered 5 earned runs, so a bit of cherry picking, but a very large sample size. He's tossed 42 2/3 innings with a 2.74 ERA. And as you mentioned, he doesn't really strike out a lot of guys, just a 19% strikeout rate in that time, but that comes with a 3% walk rate. And usually you can look at a number like XFIP and be like, okay, we can get an idea of what this guy is. And usually that number is going to be a bit higher for somebody that doesn't strike out a lot of guys, but he's still sub 3 on the XFIP, which suggests that his ability to avoid home runs and not walk anybody makes him somebody that can find success without striking out batters.
It's not a straight comparison, but like in a way, it's almost Emmanuel Clase-ish, where we weren't getting huge strikeout numbers from Clase the past couple of years, but his ability he throws hard, gets a ton of ground balls, and limits hard contact. And there's something to say for that. And it's not always about getting strikeouts. I do like guys who miss bats, but I feel like Ferrer's stuff is better than what the strikeout numbers show, and that's not the case for everyone. But for Ferrer, I think there's something there. There's something
definitely.
There.
All right, sticking in the NL East, we'll discuss Raisel Iglesias as another riser up the closer ranks. He has been noticeably incredible in the second half. If we just go back to July 28th, he has not surrendered a run across his last 13 innings. And he's not walked anybody as well while striking out 12. He's also recorded 10 saves. He's been very dominant for the Braves after
August has been crazy.
Right. He sort of struggled though earlier in the season, but this is a guy that has typically been a lot better in the second half. And I was really surprised that a team didn't try to go get him at the deadline. I don't think the Braves were probably holding on to him that hard. I was surprised that they didn't trade him for anything, but nonetheless, he's been really good for them down the stretch and setting himself up to possibly be a closer somewhere when free agency comes back around.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about there's a ton of openings. So yeah, the last 12 games for him, just incredible. 12 Ks, 12 innings, 5 hits, no runs. That's like kind of the Iglesias run that we saw from him last year, towards the end of the year too, like you said, he's more of a second half pitcher, it appears. So yeah, it would have been cool if this was happening on a team that like really needed bullpen help, but it's still, maybe the stress of where was he going to end up at the deadline was playing a factor into some of his struggles. And now, once you knew he was staying put in Atlanta, he was just able to go out, do his, go about his business. And yeah, he's been lights out so far. So yeah, he's back up in that top 10, 12 tier where I don't really have too many concerns with him moving forward the rest of the year.
Yeah, and that's where he opened the season, so it's not like he's like rising to a level that he wasn't at before.
Yeah, he is now what we thought he would be or could be. Yeah.
Exactly. All right. And our last riser is Victor Vodnik. I know it's surprising to see a Rockies pitcher rising up the ranks, but ever since Seth Halverson landed on the IL, Victor Vodnik has claimed that closer role in Colorado and has really taken off over his past almost 6 innings, 5 2/3 innings. He's not allowed to run. He struck out 7 and he's not walked anybody either, which is a big thing for Vodnik, who in the past has, not had the greatest control. We've always seen double-digit walk rates from him, but he's been very dominant recently and is getting all of the save opportunities for the Rockies.
Yeah, that's the big thing. I mean, it's all the save opportunities, but it's been 4 in August, which is, we'll take that. 4 saves or 4 saves. And yeah, the walks have not been there like they typically are with Vodnik. And yeah, like you said, he's over his past what is that, 5 outings, he has no walks. He only has 2 walks in the month of August while having 8 strikeouts. So yeah, August he's got an ERA of 2.45, WHIP of 0.82, and 4 saves. Like, yeah, that's not hurting anyone. That's helping you out in saves, strikeouts, and ratios. So is he going to be able to keep this up? I mean, we saw stretches from him last year that were similar to this. So I'm, who knows? And like, even just this year, like he had a really good June and then July was a train wreck. And then he's having a really good August. So there's very, he's been very mixed over his short career at this point. So, the good news is he's been able to pitch well in Coors, which surprisingly a lot of this bullpen for the most part is been like they're better at home. So I don't think Coors is as much of a factor as is just the Rockies' inability to give him save chances. But so far 4 in August, so hopefully, again, similar to Ferrer, like maybe looking at like 5 or 6 more the rest of the year. So I think Ferrer's a safer bet to not destroy your ratios where Vodnik could. So I still prefer Ferrer, but Vodnik is kind of that backup option where I don't know what his roster numbers look like, but I doubt he's rostered in, a lot of leagues at this point, even with the 4 saves this month. So,
Right.
yeah, especially if you're able to play matchups and like kind of pick and choose where you use them, I think Vodnik could be a fine closer for the next, month plus.
Juan Mejia was put on my radar a few
Yeah.
weeks ago when our writer Patrick Bowe wrote an article about him and suggested he could have success pitching for the Rockies. Did you see his save this past week?
I didn't. I heard about, yeah. I mean, Mejia's got crazy, and his I mean, look at his Savant page; it's all red. He does have crazy good stuff, and he does have the closer fastball slider mix. I didn't see what happened in that save chance though. I missed
Incredible.
that.
He induced a pop up to the right side, like in between the first baseman and second baseman, and he chased the whole thing down and then jumped up midair to like catch it. But then Warming Bernabel came out of nowhere and just clotheslined him and just laid him out. It was very funny to see because it's like, what are you doing? Let the fielders do their job.
Yeah.
Right. But it closed out the game. They won the game. And so he was like happy.
He just wanted that save. Yeah.
I'll send it to you. It was so funny. Like such a Rockies thing to do. It was hilarious, but I don't know. Mejia sort of endearing himself to me with our writers writing about him and then finding a save.
We've talked about this. Rockies bullpen has a ton of talent. It's just like, are the Rockies gonna pull it all out of them, or how's this gonna work? But there's a lot of talent in this Rockies bullpen. So
totally,
it's like, don't sleep on them, but at the same time, don't. It's the Rockies, so don't get too excited. I don't know.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Yeah.
I do. All right. Well, as those guys rise up the closer ranks, others have to fall to accommodate them. So we'll now discuss the relievers falling down the closer ranks, beginning with Emilio Pagan of the Reds. He had a tough week while we were out as he blew back-to-back saves. He has been the closer all year. His numbers are still great, but that was pretty rough. So much so that like even after getting a day off after that, he got 2 more days off, which allowed Tony Santillan to record a save in Pagan's absence. I don't expect him to lose the closer role, but I can see the concern that maybe with the weather heated all the way up, it's like 100 degrees out here on the West Coast, that the home run rate that Pagan has been famous for throughout his career is going to finally start hurting him.
It's been kind of hurting him, or the home run rate has been what we expected it to be, I think. And that's where we're seeing some of this regression. The whole second half hasn't been great for Pagan. And on the flip side, Santillan's been pitching a lot better. Even Ashcraft's been pitching better. Scott Barlow's been pitching better.
Mm-hmm.
So there's options here. And even, we knew from the start of the season that Terry Francona, like, prefer his most trusted reliever was Tony Santillan. And, we might start seeing now that the Reds are still hanging around the wild card race with the Mets falling apart here. I mean, the Reds, they might make a switch to Santillan. We'll have a better idea this weekend. I do think Pagan gets at least one more chance. I think he gets the next chance for them. But yeah, it's not like they don't have options behind him. So a little concerning, especially since he pitched Saturday, Sunday, blew both saves. And we haven't seen him since, while Barlow and Santillan have gotten 2 saves. So something to keep an eye on. I definitely dropped him a little bit in the rankings, but I'm not ready to say he's not the closer yet. But could change this weekend.
Right. Sticking in the NL Central, we'll discuss JoJo Romero, who appeared to be the closer following the trades of Ryan Helsley and Andrew Kittredge. Was he on the Orioles? Yeah. Ryan Helsley and Phil Maton. Yes, that's right. So that left JoJo Romero there as the closer, but he was the only lefty that was until this past week when Anthony Veneziano was recalled from the minors. But Romero not only was not really used as the closer after that, like he got the first 2 saves, and then since then it was they've just been using him in the 8th inning, and it made sense. That was something that the Cardinals manager mentioned was, hey, he's our only lefty here. We can't really use him as the closer. He's going to be needed at other parts of the ball game. And so we had hinted at a guy like Riley O'Brien still getting save opportunities in St. Louis, and that has been the case. O'Brien's gotten a couple of save chances, still pitching really well this season, but with Romero not being the outright closer and having been used in the 8th inning in at least his past 2 outings, it's very clear that it's probably a closer committee there, and even more so, Romero could just be the setup to Riley O'Brien moving forward.
Yeah, I think it's, Romero's got the high leverage guy term where he's pitching the 8th when it's the top of the order. There's like a tough lefty up in that stretch, which is opening up situations for Riley O'Brien to get saves at this point. And I think it's Matt Swanson. Or I don't know if it's just Swanson or Swanson, but he has been pitching really good lately. He has, out of all the guys in this bullpen, he might be like the most closer-ish, 97, 98 on the fastball with a sweeper that gets whiffs, mixes in a little cutter too. So he's a guy to kind of get excited about. But yeah, O'Brien, O'Brien's not a big strikeout guy. Just he throws a really hard sinker, throws a bowling ball sinker. And he's been doing a good job of picking up the saves when he gets the chance to. And yeah, Romero had a couple tough outings, but also just not seeing saves. Yeah, I gotta push him down. He's still a fine reliever. He's never really been a closer. What was it, 2 years ago when he was getting some saves towards the end of the year? He did feel more like a closer back then. He had the 3-pitch mix I thought could work for him as a closer. Don't see that type of upside with him anymore, but he's still, as their high leverage guys or top lefties, seems fine to me. But as a closer, probably out on him. I've been give it the weekend, but I think we're not going to see him get consistent saves. And again, the Cardinals, not the worst of the non-playoff teams, but like how many save chances are they going to give us the rest of the way?
Right. All right. And lastly, we'll discuss the Rangers bullpen situation, which is getting a little messy. It looked like Robert Garcia was going to hold on to the closer role even after the Rangers brought aboard Phil Maton and Danny Coulomb at the trade deadline. However, Garcia started to struggle almost immediately after the trade deadline, and I jumped on Maton in our home league and was looking to rely on him to take over that closer role because he'd pitched so well for the Cardinals. His numbers looked really good, and it seemed like he was finally going to get the opportunity to close. He got a save, and then he started falling apart too, struggling across his past few outings. And I think that's honestly opened the door for somebody like Sean Armstrong to step into that role. If you look at the numbers, he's just about better than them in almost every category, at least most notably in ERA with a 2.54 ERA on the year. And he's been striking out a decent number of batters, nearing 28% in that regard. But how are you ranking Armstrong, Garcia, Maton? Like, who do you want to roster? Is it worth rostering any of these guys? Because it's like a 3-person closer committee for a team that's struggling and it's not going to make the playoffs. Like, I don't know. What do you make of this messy situation?
It's similar to like the St. Louis situation where like not the worst of the non-playoff teams. So there's going to be some save chances, but you're dealing with like a 3-headed committee. Armstrong deserves, Armstrong has their last save, and he probably deserves to get this next save chance. He's pitched better than Garcia and Maton lately. I still think Phil Maton. I still want to say he gets the next chance, or he's still my favorite just based on his whole body of work from this year. And he was definitely better in St. Louis before coming over to Texas, but. Garcia has been kind of showing cracks for the last 2 months, so I'm almost out fully on him. But yeah, I don't. Again, these are bottom. There's 25 other relievers I think I'd rather roster at this point. So I don't. If you're taking a chance on any one of the 3, I'd say Maton, and then Sean Armstrong and Garcia. But at least Armstrong, I mean, he's been so good lately. I don't think he's going to hurt you. I just don't know if they're going to commit to him as being the closer. I mean, what are they trying to? I mean, Garcia, I guess if they're looking for like trying to see where he fits in long term, because he's going to be with them for a few years moving forward.
Right.
Maybe they give him a chance just to like see if he can handle the role for September. But that's not typically how teams, and that's not how Bruce Bochy is going to work. He's going to try to win every game. So yeah, I think we're looking at a 3-headed committee that's going to be frustrating until someone breaks out of it and just takes the role for themselves. And Bochy's not, if Armstrong just takes this role and runs with it, then we might have something. But for now, it's just another frustrating situation where just hoping to find someone to break out of the committee.
All right. Well, to recap the 3 of 3 down section, our risers were Jose Ferrer, Raisel Iglesias, and Victor Vodnik, and our fallers were Emilio Pagan, JoJo Romero, and Phil Maton. And that will do it for this episode of In the Pen. Rick, why don't you go ahead and plug your social media and anything else you're working on?
Yep, you can find me on socials at I am Rick Graham. Currently, what do we got? We're end of August, so still doing, hold closing time on Tuesdays, hold up on Thursdays, save plus holds on Fridays. And that'll run through the end of the year. So yeah, hopefully we can, find some more saves before the end of the season.
Right. All right. And you can follow me on socials at Jake Crumpler. You can follow the pod at In the Pen Pod. You can find all of my work at crumplerbaseball.com. You can catch me on the First Pitch podcast Monday through Thursday. You can also catch me over at Baseball HQ doing playing time analysis for the Giants, A's, and Diamondbacks. But that will do it for this episode 133 of the In the Pen podcast. We'll talk to you all next week.